Sofia Romano heard the Italian before she saw who was speaking it. Not the Italian she knew from movies or textbooks. Real Italian, the kind her mother used to speak when she thought no one was listening. Florentine Italian, with that musical lilt that made every word sound like poetry. She looked up from wiping table 7 to find the source. An older woman, late 50s, silver hair twisted into an elegant bun, navy dress that had seen better decades, rosary beads wrapped around her wrist like armor. Giuliana De Luca, the mother of the most dangerous man in Boston. Sofia had worked at Bella Notte for 6 months. 6 months of learning the unspoken rules. Never speak to Mr. De Luca unless spoken to. Never look directly at him for more than 3 seconds. Never, ever ask questions about the 2 men who stood by the doors every Friday night, hands folded, eyes scanning. But tonight, everything changed. Tonight, Sofia heard Giuliana sigh as she looked at the menu. A sound so deep, so achingly familiar, it cut through every wall Sofia had built around her grief. Her own mother had made that same sound. The sound of someone homesick for a place they would never see again. Sofia did not think. She simply moved. She approached table 7 with menus and water, her heart hammering against her ribs. Marco De Luca watched her approach. 6'2", tailored suit that cost more than she made in 3 months. Dark hair silvering at the temples, 35 years old. Eyes that calculated everything. Sofia knew what he was. Everyone in the North End knew. But his mother was lonely. And Sofia understood lonely. She opened her mouth and spoke the words that would change both their lives forever. Buonasera, signora. Posso aiutarla? Good evening, ma'am. May I help you? Perfect Italian. Her mother's tongue. The language of home. Giuliana's head snapped up. The menu fell from her hands. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. And Marco De Luca, the man who controlled half of Boston's underworld, stared at the waitress who had just made his mother cry. This is the story of what happened next. The restaurant fell into one of those strange pockets of silence that happen in crowded rooms, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Giuliana De Luca reached across the table. Her hands, weathered from 60 years of life, gripped Sofia's wrist with surprising strength. The rosary beads pressed cold against Sofia's skin. Tu parli italiano? You speak Italian? The question came out broken, desperate, like a drowning woman asking if someone knew how to swim. Sì, signora. Mia madre era di Firenze. Yes, ma'am. My mother was from Florence. Giuliana made a sound. Not quite a sob. Not quite a laugh. Something caught between memory and relief. Firenze. She breathed the word like a prayer, like the name of a lover she had not seen in decades. La città più bella del mondo. The most beautiful city in the world. Sofia felt something crack open in her chest. Her own mother used to say the same thing. Used to stand in their small kitchen in Medford, making pasta by hand, telling stories about the Duomo and the Arno River, and the way Florence smelled like stone and sunshine. Elena Romano had been dead for 3 years. Car accident, drunk driver. No charges that stuck. But in this moment, hearing Giuliana speak with that same longing, Sofia could almost hear her mother's voice again. Marco De Luca had not moved. He sat perfectly still, watching this exchange with an expression Sofia could not read. His hands rested on the white tablecloth. No rings, no watch, nothing that could be grabbed in a fight. Sofia had learned to notice details. 4 years of culinary school trained her to see what others missed. The wrong garnish, the inconsistent plating, the customer ready to complain. But this was different. Marco was not a dish to be perfected. He was a man who made other men afraid. And right now, he was watching Sofia like she was the most interesting thing in the room. Come ti chiami? What is your name? Giuliana still held her wrist. The older woman's eyes were wet, but her grip was steady. Sofia Romano. Sofia. Giuliana rolled the name around in her mouth, tasting it. Un nome bellissimo. Per una ragazza bellissima. A beautiful name for a beautiful girl. She looked at her son, switched to English, accented but clear. Tommaso, this girl speaks Italian. After all these years, someone speaks my language. Her voice broke on the last word. 35 years of silence, bleeding through. Marco finally spoke. His voice was quieter than Sofia expected, measured, like a man who chose every word carefully, because words had consequences. I can hear that, Mama. He looked at Sofia, really looked, not the way men usually looked at waitresses, not assessing, not dismissive, just seeing. Thank you for speaking to her. It means more than you know. Sofia wanted to say something appropriate, something professional, but instead, what came out was truth. My mother cried the first time she heard Florentine Italian after moving to Boston. She said it was like hearing home. I understand what your mother feels. Giuliana released Sofia's wrist, only to reach up and cup her face. Both hands, warm palms against Sofia's cheeks. Your mother, where is she now? The question was gentle, but it still hurt. She passed away 3 years ago. Both my parents. Car accident. Giuliana pulled her down, into the booth, into an embrace that smelled like lavender, and old memories, and grief that never quite healed. Mi dispiace tanto, cara mia. I am so sorry, my dear. They sat like that, an older Italian woman and a young waitress, holding each other in a booth in Boston's North End, sharing pain in a language nobody else in the restaurant understood. Sofia felt Marco's eyes on them, felt the weight of his attention, but she did not pull away. Some moments were too important to rush. The dinner lasted 2 hours. Sofia should have been serving other tables, should have been in the kitchen, helping Chef Lorenzo with the Friday rush, should have been anywhere but sitting in a booth with the De Luca family, speaking rapid Italian about recipes and memories, and the Sicily Giuliana had left behind. But Chef Lorenzo, watching from the kitchen window, simply smiled and waved her on. He understood. Food was more than sustenance. It was memory, connection, love made edible. And tonight, Sofia was feeding a hunger that had nothing to do with the stomach. Giuliana talked about her childhood in Palermo, about her mother's kitchen, about arancini made with real saffron, not the cheap American substitute, about the way tomatoes tasted when they grew in volcanic soil, about Sunday dinners that lasted until midnight, the table crowded with cousins and aunts and uncles, everyone arguing about everything. But the food was sacred. She had left all of that at 19, married Antonio De Luca, a Boston Italian who had swept her off her feet during a family visit. She had loved him, still loved him, 10 years after his death. But she had never stopped missing Sicily. 35 years in America. 35 years of speaking English when she wanted to speak Italian. Of eating food that tasted almost right, but never quite. Of being surrounded by people who could not understand the language that lived in her bones. Sofia listened, asked questions, shared her own stories. Her grandmother, Maria Vitale, from Corleone. The bread she made every Sunday. The way she taught Sofia to knead dough, to feel when it was ready, to trust her hands more than any recipe. When Sofia mentioned Corleone, Giuliana gasped. Madonna Santa. My mother's sister lived there, the Vitale family. They had a bakery near the church. The two women stared at each other, connected across decades, across an ocean, through the invisible threads that tied families together, even when they did not know it. Marco watched this unfold. He had ordered the branzino on Sofia's recommendation, but barely touched it. He was too busy watching his mother transform. He had not seen her this alive in years, maybe since his father died, maybe longer. After dinner, Sofia brought the check. Marco tucked cash inside, without looking. $500 for a $200 meal. Sophia opened the folder, stared at the bills. Sir, this is too much. For making my mother smile? It is not nearly enough. His voice was firm, final. But there was something underneath, something softer. Juliana stood, pulled Sophia into another hug. You come back next Friday. We talk more. About Florence. About your dreams. About everything. I work every Friday night. Perfect. So we see you. It was not a question. It was a fact. A decision already made. After they left, Sophia stood in the restaurant, holding the check, feeling the world tilt slightly on its axis. $300 tip. And something else. A business card. Simple. Black. Just a name and phone number. Marco De Luca. On the back, written in clean script. If you ever need anything. Sophia tucked it into her apron pocket, felt the weight of it against her hip. She did not know it then, but that card would become the most important thing she owned. 6 a.m. came too early. Sophia pulled herself out of bed in the small room she had grown up in. Her father had offered to convert the garage into a studio apartment, give her more space, more privacy. She had refused. This room held her parents, the wallpaper her mother had chosen, the bookshelf her father had built, the window that looked out onto the street where they used to walk every evening, hand in hand, talking about nothing and everything. She could not leave it, not yet. The cafe in Cambridge opened at 7. Sophia needed to be there by 6:30 to prep. Pull espresso shots for Harvard students who did not say thank you. Smile at professors who treated her like furniture. Pretend she did not have a culinary degree and dreams bigger than their dissertations. Tips. $23 for 4 hours of work. Afternoon meant school. The Culinary Institute. Night program for people who could not afford to quit their day jobs. Sophia sat in the back, took notes with fingers cramped from the morning shift, and tried to stay awake through demonstrations she already knew by heart. Her instructor, Chef Williams, pulled her aside after knife skills. Romano, your technique is flawless. What you need now is opportunity. Working on it, chef. The stages in Europe. You applying? Can't afford it yet. The truth was more complicated. Stage positions at Michelin restaurants were unpaid, competitive, required 6 months of savings just to survive, while working 16-hour days for free. Sophia had debt, $47,000, medical bills from her grandmother's final 6 months, lung cancer, never smoked a day in her life, just 30 years, breathing chemical fumes in a factory. Sophia worked 3 jobs to pay it down. 16,000 gone, 47 to go. At this rate, she would be 30 before she could afford Europe, 35 before she opened her own restaurant. If she made it that far, evening meant Bella Notte, the best job, the one where she could learn. Watch Chef Lorenzo work, ask questions, practice after hours in a professional kitchen. The one where, for the past 3 weeks, the De Luca family had requested her section every Friday night. Tonight was the 4th Friday. Sophia tied her apron, checked her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back tight, the exhaustion of someone running on fumes and willpower. But when she walked out onto the floor and saw Juliana wave from table 7, something in her chest loosened. This was worth the exhaustion. Marco arrived alone. Sophia tried not to show her disappointment. She had found a recipe in Juliana's cookbook, the one the older woman had given her 2 weeks ago. Handwritten, stained with use, precious. Caponata Siciliana. But the measurements were unclear. Nonna's handwriting artistic rather than precise. Where is Signora Juliana? Church event. Something about a saint I have never heard of. Marco smiled. Slight, but real. She insisted I come anyway. Said I need to eat properly. Sophia brought his wine. Chianti Classico. Always the same. Poured it carefully. He watched her hands. She had nice hands, he thought. Strong. Capable. scarred from kitchen burns and knife slips, working hands. May I ask you something? His voice was quieter, without his mother as buffer. Of course. My mother's birthday is next month, 58th. I want to throw her a dinner party. He paused, met Sophia's eyes. I want you to cook it. Sophia's hands froze on the wine bottle. Me? You have been studying her cookbook. You listen when she talks about her grandmother's kitchen, about which tomatoes, which olive oil, how long to toast the breadcrumbs. He leaned forward slightly. You understand it is not just food. It is memory. Sophia set the bottle down, her mind already racing. Menu planning, ingredient sourcing, testing. How many people? 10, maybe 12. Close family. Friends from church. Where? My place. Beacon Hill. Full kitchen. Professional grade. You will have whatever you need. When? 3 weeks. November 20th. Sophia calculated. 3 weeks to perfect dishes she had never made. To honor recipes from a woman who had been cooking them for 60 years. It was insane. Impossible. I will need to talk to your mother. Get details about specific dishes. How her family made them. She would love that. And I will need to do test runs. Practice until it is perfect. Use my kitchen. Whenever you want. Sophia looked at him. Really looked. Why are you doing this? Doing what? All of this. The tips. The kitchen. This job. Why? Marco was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. You made my mother laugh. Real laughter. Not the polite kind she gives to keep me from worrying. You gave her back something she lost 35 years ago. He paused. Something I could not give her, even with all my money and power. You gave her home. What is that worth? Sophia felt her throat tighten. I will pay you, obviously. Name your fee. $5,000. Plus expenses for ingredients. Done. Plus I pay off your grandmother's debt. Marco, no. $47,000. I will wire it Monday. Debt cleared. That is too much. It is nothing to me. And everything to you. His eyes held hers. Let me do this, Sophia. Please. She should refuse. Should maintain her independence. Her pride. But she thought about $47,000. About freedom. About one job instead of 3. About Europe and Michelin kitchens and dreams that had been on hold for 4 years. About her father, working construction for 30 years, body broken by the time he retired. About her mother, teaching Italian at community college for minimum wage, driving a car that barely ran. About her grandmother, dying slowly, apologizing for the debt with her last breaths. Why? The word came out barely above a whisper. Marco's answer was simple, honest. Because you deserve it, and because I want to see what you become when nothing is holding you back. The next 3 weeks blurred together. Sophia quit the cafe job, kept school, kept Bella Nodi, spent every other moment in Marco's kitchen. The penthouse in Beacon Hill was everything her small house in Medford was not. Space, light, equipment that made her hands itch to create. Viking range, double ovens, marble counters, every tool a chef could dream of, completely unused. Marco admitted he did not cook, ordered in or ate at restaurants. Sophia muttered about waste. Marco simply smiled and told her to use it whenever she wanted. She did. Juliana came twice a week. They would spend hours going through recipes. Juliana talking, Sophia taking notes, stories pouring out like water from a broken dam. My nonna made arancini for every feast day. The saffron must bloom in warm stock. Americans use water. That is why it tastes wrong. Caponata, sweet and sour, yes, but the ratio matters. Too sweet, it is dessert. Too sour, your mouth hurts. Pasta con le sarde. Sardines, wild fennel, raisins, pine nuts. People think it is strange, but in Palermo, this is love. Sophia absorbed everything, practiced, adjusted, perfected. Marco was often there, working in his study, Sometimes he would come watch her cook, sit at the kitchen island, ask questions. What is that smell? Saffron blooming. For the arancini. Why bloom it? Releases the flavor. If you just throw the threads in rice, they stay tight. Blooming opens them. Chemistry and magic. You love this. Cooking? Yes. No. The science of it. The precision. Sophia smiled, turned back to her pot. My mother used to say cooking is art and science married. Too much art, it is chaos. Too much science, it is boring. You need both. These moments felt dangerous, because Sophia was starting to notice things. The way Marco's eyes softened when she explained techniques. The way he listened like her words mattered. The way he sometimes reached for the spoon to taste, and their fingers would brush, and the air would change. She was starting to look forward to Friday nights, not just as work, as something else, something she could not name, something that scared her. On the night of the second test run, Marco insisted on driving her home. I can take the train. It is 11 at night. I am driving you. Non-negotiable. His car was nicer than any car Sophia had ever been in. Leather seats, heated, silent engine. The kind of car that announced money without needing to say it. They drove through Boston, past the harbor, past the North End, toward Medford. Your father. You have never mentioned him. Robert Romano, retired construction worker, Irish and Italian, met my mother at a church festival. Sophia smiled at the memory. She said he could not dance, but kept trying anyway. That is what made her fall in love. He knows you are working for me? He knows I am cooking a birthday dinner for a client's mother. You did not tell him who the client is. It was not a question. No. Why? Sophia looked at him. Because my father is old school Boston. He has opinions about certain families, certain businesses, and he is protective. He should be. You are his daughter. They pulled up to her house. Small, 2-bedroom, paint peeling slightly. The house her parents had bought 30 years ago. The house where they had died in their sleep, dreaming of a future that would never come. The porch light was on. Her father was sitting on the front steps. Sophia's stomach dropped. Oh no. Robert Romano stood as the Mercedes stopped. 52 years old. Broad shoulders from decades of physical labor. Gray hair cut military short. Eyes that missed nothing. He walked to the driver's side. Marco lowered the window. Mr. Romano. Mr. DeLuca. Robert's voice was even. Controlled. The voice of a man keeping his temper in check through sheer force of will. We need to talk. Sophia got out quickly. Dad, it is not what you think. Inside, Sophia, I am 23 years old. Inside. The tone allowed no argument. Sophia looked at Marco, tried to communicate apology with her eyes. Went in. Through the window, she watched them. Could not hear words, but saw her father's body language. Rigid. Defensive. The stance of a man ready to fight. Saw Marco's. Calm. Hands visible. Non-threatening. They talked for 5 minutes. Then her father came inside. Marco drove away. Sophia was waiting in the kitchen. Dad. Marco DeLuca. Robert said it like a curse. You are working for Marco DeLuca. I am cooking dinner for his mother. Do you know what his family does? What they have been doing in this city for 3 generations? I know enough. No, you do not. Robert sat heavily. The kitchen chair creaked under his weight. I worked construction for 30 years, Sophia. You know who controlled the unions? Who decided which sites got supplies and which did not? Who made sure the right contractors got the big jobs? He did not wait for an answer. Families like the DeLucas. They owned the North End. Still do. For all that Marco is trying to go legitimate. Trying. So he is changing. Or he is just better at hiding it. Robert rubbed his face. Suddenly, looking older than 52, baby girl, I lost your mother. I am not losing you too. Sophia felt her throat tighten. Her father rarely talked about the accident. About the drunk driver who walked away while Elena Romano bled out in a crushed car. About the justice that never came. I am not in danger. You are in his world. That is danger. It is a birthday dinner. It starts with a dinner. Then you are friends with the mother. Then he is driving you home at 11 at night. Then you are in too deep to get out. Robert's voice cracked. I saw how he looked at you when you got out of the car. How? Like a man who is falling and does not want to stop. Sophia sat across from him, took his hands, rough palms, scarred knuckles, hands that had built houses and held her mother and buried too many people he loved. Papa, look at me. He did. Brown eyes, wet with unshed tears. Marco has been respectful. His mother is lonely. I speak Italian with her. That is all. That is not all, and you know it. They sat in silence, the house settling around them, the refrigerator humming, the clock ticking. Finally, Robert spoke. Do this dinner. For his mother. She sounds nice. But after? Distance yourself. This is not your world, baby girl. And I do not want to bury another person I love. Sophia lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, her father's words echoing. He was right to worry. She knew that. But he was also wrong. Because Juliana was not just nice. She was lonely and homesick, and had adopted Sophia like family. Walking away would hurt her. And Marco. Marco was complicated. Dangerous, yes. His world violent. But he was also the man who paid her debt without asking for anything. Who wanted his mother to taste home again. Who listened when Sophia talked about dreams. Who watched her cook like it was the most fascinating thing he had ever seen. She was not falling for him. She was not. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Your father is right to protect you. I would do the same. But I will not let anything happen to you. I promise. It was signed simply, M. Sophia stared at the message. How did he get her number? Chef Lorenzo, probably. The man was a romantic. She should not respond. Should listen to her father. Should put distance between herself and this world. Instead, she typed, I am not afraid. His response came immediately. You should be. But I am glad you are not. Then, Friday, same time. My mother wants to finalize the menu with you. Sophia. I will be there. Marco. Good. She put the phone down, closed her eyes. This was dangerous. Stupid. Everything her father warned her about. But Sophia had been playing it safe her whole life. 3 jobs. Debt, sacrifice, survival. Maybe it was time to take a risk. Even if that risk came in a tailored suit and drove a Mercedes and had eyes that saw too much. Outside, the city hummed. Boston at night. Cars passing. Sirens in the distance. The sound of life continuing, whether you were ready or not. Sophia pulled the blanket up, felt the weight of decisions not yet made pressing down. In 3 weeks, she would cook the most important meal of her life. But tonight, she would sleep and dream of saffron and Sicily and a man who promised protection he might not be able to give. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and with it, everything that came next. The morning of Juliana's birthday arrived cold and clear. Sophia stood in Marco's kitchen at 5 in the morning, the city still dark beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, Boston sleeping. But she was awake, had been awake since 3, mind racing through the menu one more time. Arancini, 30 of them, each one rolled by hand. Saffron bloomed just right. Rice to filling ratio perfected after 7 attempts. Caponata, sweet and sour, balanced on a knife edge. Eggplant cut precise. Not too thick, not too thin. Pasta con le sarde, the most challenging. Wild fennel she had driven to 3 different markets to find. Sardines from a Portuguese supplier in Cambridge. Pine nuts toasted until fragrant, but not bitter. Brassato al Barolo, beef braised for 6 hours in wine that cost more than her weekly grocery budget. The meat would be so tender, it fell apart at the touch of a fork. And dessert, cassata siciliana, layers of sponge cake and ricotta and candied fruit and marzipan. Giuliana's favorite, the one her mother used to make for every birthday. Sofia had practiced it 4 times, thrown out 3. The 4th finally tasted right. She began with the arancini. Rice had to be cooked the day before, left to cool completely. Otherwise, the balls would not hold their shape in the fryer. Her hands moved automatically. Scoop rice. Press flat in palm. Add filling. Peas, meat, cheese. A tiny amount. Americans always added too much. The rice was the star. Roll, shape, perfect sphere. Set aside. Repeat 30 times. She did not hear Marco enter, did not know he was there until he spoke. You did not sleep. His voice made her jump. Rice scattered across the counter. She turned. He stood in the doorway, sweatpants and a white t-shirt. Hair uncombed, no shoes. This was Marco without armor, without the expensive suits and calculated expressions. He looked younger, almost vulnerable. I slept a little. Liar. He moved to the espresso machine, started it up, the sound loud in the quiet kitchen. How long have you been here? Since 5. Sofia, it is barely 6 now. I know. He made 2 espressos, brought one to her. Their fingers brushed as she took the cup. That spark again, the one that happened every time they touched. She was getting used to it, or trying to. You are nervous. It was not a question. Your mother deserves perfection. I want to give her that. You will. How do you know? Because you have been working toward this for 3 weeks. Because you care. Because when you cook, you do not just follow recipes. You put your soul on the plate. He paused. My mother will taste that, and she will know she is loved. Sofia felt her eyes burn. She blinked hard, turned back to the rice. Help me. With what? Rolling these. We have 20 more to go. Marco DeLuca, who controlled half of Boston, who made grown men stutter, who never did anything without purpose, washed his hands and stood beside her at the counter. Show me how. She demonstrated. Rice flat. Filling center. Roll. Shape. He tried. His first arancini looked like a football. Lopsided, lumpy. Sofia bit back a laugh. Like this. She guided his hands, showed him the motion. Press gently. Roll smooth. The rice would tell you when it was right. They worked in silence. Dawn breaking outside. The city waking. By the time they finished, Marco had mastered the technique. His last few arancini were nearly as perfect as hers. You are a quick learner. I had a good teacher. Their eyes met. Held. Sofia looked away first. Cleared her throat. I need to start the brassato. It takes 6 hours. Then I will help. You do not have to do that. I know. But he stayed. All morning. Chopping onions. Stirring pots. Following her instructions like she was the general. And he, the soldier. At noon, Giuliana arrived with Maria Benedetti. The older woman carried flowers. White roses. Giuliana's favorites. Cara. She pulled Sofia into a hug. Held her tight. Happy birthday, signora. Giuliana. How many times must I tell you? Giuliana. She released Sofia. Looked around the kitchen. At the pots simmering. The arancini waiting to be fried. The cassata in the refrigerator. The table already set with white linens and her mother's silver. Brought from Sicily, 60 years ago. Tears filled her eyes. This is too much. It is exactly enough. Marco appeared from the study. Changed now. Dark slacks, white dress shirt. He kissed his mother's cheek. Happy birthday, Mama. She cupped his face. Studied him with the intensity only mothers possess. You look different. I am the same. No, you are lighter. Less weight in your eyes. She glanced at Sofia, then back to her son. She is good for you. Mama. It is true. I see it. The guests began arriving at 6. 12 people, family friends. The older Italian ladies from church who had known Giuliana for decades. Tony Benedetti and his wife. Vincenzo, Marco's head of security, looking uncomfortable in a suit jacket. And Robert Romano. Sofia froze when she saw her father in the doorway. Marco had invited him, had not told her. Robert looked around the penthouse, taking in the art on the walls, the view, the quiet wealth. Then his eyes found Sophia. She waited for anger, for judgment. Instead, he smiled, small but real. He crossed the room, pulled her into a hug. "You look beautiful, baby girl." She was wearing a simple black dress, hair down for once, minimal makeup. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "Mr. DeLuca invited me. Said any dinner honoring mothers should include the daughter's father, too." Sophia looked over her father's shoulder, found Marco watching. Their eyes met across the room. "Thank you," she mouthed. He nodded. Once. Dinner began at 7. Sophia had insisted on serving everything herself. This was her creation, her gift. She needed to see it through. The arancini came first. Golden, perfect, still hot from the fryer. She placed one in front of Juliana. Watched the older woman's face. Juliana cut it open. Steam rose. The saffron rice glowed gold. The filling visible, just enough. She took a bite, closed her eyes. When she opened them, tears streamed down her face. "Exactly like my nonna made." "Exactly. How did you know?" "You told me. I listened." The table fell silent. Everyone watching Juliana cry over a rice ball. She laughed through her tears. "Forgive me. I am a silly old woman." "You are not old, and you are not silly." Sophia's voice was firm. "You are homesick, and there is nothing silly about that." Juliana reached for her hand, squeezed. The rest of the meal unfolded like a symphony, each course building on the last. Caponata, sweet and sour and perfect. The older women from church argued good-naturedly about whose grandmother made it better. Decided Sophia's version could compete with any of them. Pasta con le sarde, the wild fennel making the whole room smell like Sicily. Vincenzo, who never spoke unless necessary, closed his eyes and said it tasted exactly like his mother used to make in Catania. Brassato al Barolo, the beef so tender it needed no knife. The wine sauce, rich and deep. Robert Romano, who had been quiet most of the evening, took a second helping, then a third, and finally, cassata. The cake Juliana's mother had made for every birthday until the day she died. Sophia brought it out on her mother's silver platter. Candles lit, 58 of them. The table sang happy birthday, in Italian and English both, voices blending, old and young, Boston and Sicily, past and present. Juliana made a wish, blew out the candles. Later, Sophia would wonder what she wished for, would wonder if wishes made over Sicilian cake carried more weight than ordinary wishes. But in that moment, she simply cut slices, passed them around, watched Juliana take the first bite. The older woman did not cry this time. She simply smiled, reached for Marco's hand, then for Sophia's. "This is the best birthday I have had in 35 years. Thank you, cara mia. Thank you for bringing me home." The guests left around midnight. Robert Romano shook Marco's hand before he went. A gesture of peace, of tentative acceptance. "Take care of my girl, always." The word was a vow. After everyone had gone, after Maria, in the cleaning crew, had cleared everything away, Sophia found herself alone with Marco on the balcony. The city stretched below, lights like stars fallen to earth. Cold, November air biting through her dress. Marco draped his jacket over her shoulders. It smelled like him, something expensive and clean. "Your father likes me better now. He saw how you looked at me while I was cooking." "How did I look at you?" "Like I was the only person in the room." Sophia turned, found him closer than she expected, close enough to feel his warmth in the cold air. "You were the only person in the room." Sophia. Her name. Just her name. But the way he said it made her breath catch. "This is dangerous. I know. My world is complicated. I know that too. You deserve better. Someone without my history. My obligations. Maybe." She looked up at him, at the face she had memorized without meaning to. The scar above his left eyebrow. the gray threading through his hair at the temples, the eyes that had seen too much but still held kindness. "But I do not want someone else. I want you." The words hung between them, truth spoken into the dark. Marco raised his hand, cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "If we do this, if we start this, I need you to understand. I am trying to go legitimate, to leave the old ways behind. But it is slow, and there are people who do not want that to happen. I understand. You could be in danger. I could be hit by a car tomorrow. I could get sick. I could die alone in my apartment, and nobody would find me for days." She stepped closer. "We do not get guarantees, Marco. We get moments, and I would rather have moments with you than safety without you." He kissed her then, soft, careful, like she was something precious that might break. She kissed him back, not soft, not careful, like a woman who had been holding back for too long. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Marco rested his forehead against hers. "Stay tonight, just to sleep. I do not want you taking the train at this hour." "Okay." He led her inside, to a guest room, left her one of his shirts to sleep in, did not ask for more. But when Sophia lay in the massive bed, wearing his shirt, smelling his cologne on the fabric, she knew everything had changed. They had crossed a line, and there was no going back. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of Friday dinners at Bella Notte, of Sophia cooking in Marco's kitchen, of slow kisses and careful touches, and a relationship building brick by brick. 3 weeks of the best happiness Sophia had ever known. And then the letter came. It arrived on a Tuesday. Thin envelope, international postage, return address in Paris, Le Manoir Blanc, 3 Michelin stars, one of the most prestigious restaurants in Europe. Sophia's hands shook as she opened it. "Dear Miss Romano, we are pleased to offer you a 6-month stage position beginning March 1st. Your application and portfolio impressed our executive chef. We believe you have significant potential. Please confirm your acceptance by January 15th. She read it 3 times, then sat down hard on her bed. This was it, the dream, the opportunity she had been working toward for 4 years. 6 months in Paris, learning from masters, building her resume, opening doors that would lead to her own restaurant someday. Everything she wanted, except now there was Marco, and Juliana, and Friday nights that felt like family, and a life in Boston that suddenly did not feel like a cage. She called her father. "Dad, I got it. The stage in Paris." Robert Romano was quiet for a moment. Then, "That is wonderful, baby girl. I am proud of you." But his voice was sad, because they both knew what this meant. "I have to go, right? This is the dream. Yes, you have to go." "But what about Marco?" Robert sighed. The sigh of a father who loved his daughter too much to lie to her. "If he loves you, he will wait. And if he does not wait, he was not the right one." Simple. True. Heartbreaking. Sophia hung up, stared at the letter. She had until January 15th to decide. 6 weeks. She told Marco on Friday, after dinner at Bella Notte, in his car, in the parking lot where they often sat and talked until the restaurant closed. "I got a letter. From Paris." She handed it to him, watched his face as he read. When he finished, he folded it carefully, handed it back. "Congratulations." 2 words, but his voice was tight. "I have not said yes yet." "Why not?" "Because of you. Us. This." She gestured between them. "Sophia, this is your dream. So are you." The words came out before she could stop them. Raw. True. Marco turned to face her fully. "Listen to me. I am 35 years old, 12 years older than you. My life is complicated, dangerous. You are 23. Your whole life is ahead of you. You cannot give up Paris for me. What if I want to? You do not know what you want." "Not really. You are caught up in this, in us. But in 6 months, a year, you will resent me. You will wonder what you could have become. Or maybe I will become it. just in a different way. No, the word was firm, final. You go to Paris. You do your stage. You learn. You grow. And when you come back, if you still want this, want me, we will figure it out. And if I do not come back, pain flashed across his face, but he hid it quickly. Then you do not come back, and I will be happy for you, because you deserve the world, Sophia. All of it. Not just the small piece I can give you. She felt tears burn, blinked them back. I do not want the world. I want you. Right now you do. But Paris will change that. Paris will show you what you are capable of, what you can be. He reached for her hand. Go. Be brilliant. Come back and tell me about it. And we will see where we are. It was not a promise. Not really. But it was not a goodbye either. It was a pause. A breath held. A hope that 6 months was not too long. Sophia nodded. Could not speak past the lump in her throat. She would go to Paris, because he was right. This was the dream. But leaving him would be the hardest thing she had ever done. Juliana took the news better than Sophia expected. They sat in the small house in the North End, tea cooling between them, the old cookbook open on the table. Paris, how wonderful. But her eyes were sad. I will only be gone 6 months. 6 months is a long time when you are my age. Juliana smiled, patted Sophia's hand. But you must go. You must see the world. Learn from the French. Even if they do not know how to cook as well as Italians. She winked. I will miss you. I will miss you too, Cara. But I am proud. So proud. You will do beautiful things in Paris. They sat in silence. Then Juliana spoke again. My son. He loves you. I love him too. Then why do you both look so sad? Because love is complicated. Love is simple. People make it complicated. Juliana poured more tea. When I was your age, I had a choice. Stay in Sicily or come to America with Antonio. I chose Antonio, and I never regretted it. But I always wondered what would have happened if I had stayed, if I had chosen differently. She looked at Sophia. Do not wonder. Go to Paris. See what it offers. And if you are meant to be with my son, you will find your way back. If not, you will find something else, something equally beautiful. What if I lose him? Then he was not yours to keep, and that is sad. But it is also life. The weeks before Paris blurred together. Sophia and Marco spent every moment they could together. But there was a bitter sweetness now. Every kiss felt like it might be the last. Every conversation waited with things unsaid. Christmas came. Sophia spent it with her father and brother, Marco with his mother. But they texted throughout the day. Small messages. Missing you. Thinking of you. Wish you were here. New Year's Eve. They were together. At his penthouse. Just the two of them. They stood on the balcony at midnight. Watched fireworks over the harbor. The city celebrating. Oblivious to the two people holding each other like they could stop time through sheer force of will. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. They kissed as the last firework faded. And Sophia tasted salt. Could not tell if it was from her tears or his. 2 weeks before Sophia was scheduled to leave, it happened. Friday night, Bella Notte, the usual table, the usual order. But Juliana looked pale, tired. She picked at her food instead of eating. Mama, are you feeling all right? Just tired, Caro. I did not sleep well. Then, mid-sentence, she stopped, clutched her chest, gasped. Mama! She collapsed, right there in the booth, face gray, breathing shallow. Chaos erupted. Marco shouting orders. Vincenzo calling an ambulance. Sophia holding Juliana's hand, whispering in Italian, Stay with us. Stay with us. Please, stay with us. The ambulance came, took her away, Marco following, Sophia right behind him. At the hospital, they waited. Marco paced, Sophia sat, neither speaking. Finally, a doctor emerged. Atrial fibrillation. Her heart rhythm is irregular. We have stabilized her for now, but she needs to make lifestyle changes. Less stress, Ideally, a warmer climate. Family support. The doctor paused. How long has she been in Boston? 35 years. And she is from? Sicily. The doctor nodded. I see this often with elderly immigrants. The body remembers home. Sometimes it needs to go back. After the doctor left, Marco sat, put his head in his hands. This is my fault. The stress of my business. My life. It is killing her. No. Sophia knelt in front of him, took his hands. This is not your fault. This is 35 years of homesickness, of living somewhere her heart never fully accepted. She paused. Maybe it is time to let her go home. Juliana stayed in the hospital for 3 days. When she was released, she was different, quieter, more fragile. Sophia visited every day, brought soup, read to her in Italian, held her hand. On the third visit, Juliana spoke. I want to go home, to Sicily, to die in the place I was born. You are not dying. We are all dying, Cara. Some of us just faster than others. She squeezed Sophia's hand. I have been thinking about what the doctor said, about stress and warmth and family, and I realized something. What? I have spent 35 years being a good wife, a good mother, living where I was supposed to live, being who I was supposed to be. But I have never lived for myself. Her voice strengthened. I want to go back, buy a small house in my village, spend my days cooking and going to Mass and speaking Italian with people who understand me. I want to die knowing I came home. Tears streamed down Sophia's face. Then you should go. Tommaso will not let me. Then I will convince him. That night, Sophia went to Marco's penthouse. He answered the door, looking exhausted. Grief etched in every line of his face. She is leaving, is she not? Yes. When? As soon as she is strong enough to travel. She wants to buy a house in her village. Live out her days there. Marco nodded, like he had known this was coming. I cannot lose her. You are not losing her. You are setting her free. Sophia stepped closer. And I think you should go with her. What? To Italy? Not to stay in her village, but to be close. Rome, maybe. Florence. Somewhere you can visit her. Somewhere you can build a new life. Away from all of this. She gestured at the penthouse. The city. The invisible weight of his old life. I cannot just leave. Why not? You have been transitioning to legitimate business for 2 years. Tony can handle operations here. You can consult remotely. You have the money. The freedom? She paused. What is keeping you here, except habit? You. The word was quiet, but it hit like a shout. I am leaving in 2 weeks anyway. For 6 months. Maybe longer. If I get a permanent position. If opportunities open up. She took his hands. Come to Italy. Be near your mother. And when I finish in Paris, I will come find you. We can figure out what happens next. Together. Sophia. Please. Do not stay here out of obligation. To a city. To a life you do not want anymore. Your mother needs you. And I think you need this too. Marco pulled her close. Held her. Like she was the only solid thing in a spinning world. What if I cannot make it work? What if I fail? Then you fail. But at least you will have tried. At least you will not spend the rest of your life wondering what if. She pulled back, met his eyes. Promise me. Promise me you will think about it. I promise. Sophia's last day in Boston arrived too fast. She spent the morning with her father and Danny, hugging them goodbye, promising to call, to write, to come home for Christmas. Her father held her tight. Make us proud, baby girl. I will try. You already have. In the afternoon, she went to see Juliana. The older woman was packing, sorting through 60 years of life, deciding what to take home and what to leave behind. Come here, Cara. Juliana pulled Sophia to the couch, handed her a small box. Inside was a gold necklace. Delicate, old, a small cross pendant. This was my mother's, and her mother's before that. I want you to have it. Juliana, I cannot. Yes, you can. You are family now, and family passes these things down. She fastened it around Sophia's neck. Wear this in Paris, and remember, you are loved. You are home. No matter where you go, they cried together, holding each other. Two women from different generations, different countries, different lives, connected by food and language and love. That evening, Marco drove her to the airport. They did not speak much. What was there to say that had not already been said? At the terminal, he helped her with her bags, walked her as far as security would allow. This is it. This is it. He cupped her face, kissed her, slow, thorough, memorizing. When they broke apart, both had tears. 6 months. 6 months. I love you, Sofia Romano. The first time he had said it out loud. I love you too, Marco De Luca. She picked up her bag, walked toward security, turned back once. He was still standing there, watching, waiting. She raised her hand. He raised his. Then she turned, walked through security, toward her gate, toward Paris, toward her dreams, away from the man she loved. The hardest walk of her life, but also the bravest. Behind her, Marco stood until he could no longer see her. Then he walked back to his car, got in, sat in the parking garage, and made a decision. He pulled out his phone, called Tony. I am leaving Boston, moving to Rome. I need you to take over operations here. Boss, are you sure? No, but I am doing it anyway. When? 3 weeks. As soon as I get my mother settled. He hung up, started the car, drove home through the city he had lived in his entire life. The city he was about to leave. For his mother. For a chance at a different life. And maybe, if he was very lucky, for the woman who had taught him that home was not a place. It was a person. And his person was on a plane to Paris. But in 6 months, he would find her. And they would see if love could survive distance, time, change. They would see if food and language and family were enough to build a life on. They would see. The plane lifted into the night sky, carrying Sofia toward her future. Below, Marco drove through streets he knew by heart, toward a future he could barely imagine. Both of them scared, both of them hopeful, both of them believing that somehow, some way, this story was not over. It was just beginning. Paris, in March, was nothing like Sofia had imagined. Colder, grayer, the romance of movies replaced by the reality of 12-hour shifts in a kitchen where she was the lowest-ranked person, where her Italian training meant nothing, where French chefs made it clear that Americans, even ones who spoke perfect Italian, had much to learn. Le Manoir Blanc occupied a corner building in the 6th arrondissement. 3 Michelin stars. Reservations booked 6 months out. A kitchen run with military precision by Chef Philippe Marchand, a man who had made grown men cry with a single look. Sofia started on vegetable prep. Brunoise, julienne, chiffonade, cuts she had mastered years ago. But here, perfection was not good enough. Here, perfection was the baseline. Too thick. Again, Chef Marchand would not even look at her. Just push the cutting board back. Make her start over. She did. 20 times, 30, until her hands cramped and her eyes blurred. But she did not complain. This was the dream. This was what she had left Boston for. Left Marco for. She had to believe it was worth it. Her apartment was a 6th-floor walk-up in the 11th arrondissement. 1 room, bathroom down the hall shared with 3 other tenants. A hot plate that barely worked. A window that looked onto a brick wall. Nothing like Marco's penthouse. She tried not to think about that. Tried not to think about him at all. Failed constantly. They texted every day. Video called when their schedules aligned, which was rarely. The time difference made it hard. When she finished her shift at midnight, it was 6 in the evening in Boston. When she woke at 5, it was 11 at night there. But they tried. How was today? Brutal. Chef Marchand threw a pan at someone's head. Did he hit them? No, but it was close. A pause. Then Marco's response. I am proud of you, even when it is hard. Especially when it is hard. Those messages kept her going. On days when Chef Marchand screamed, when the other stages whispered in French, thinking she did not understand, when she was so tired she could barely stand. Marco's words, a lifeline across the ocean. And, once a week, Juliana called. From Rome now. She had moved in February, bought a small house in her village outside Palermo, spent her days cooking and going to Mass and speaking Sicilian with neighbors who remembered her mother. She sounded younger on these calls, lighter, the Boston sadness gone from her voice. Cara, you must come visit. When you have time off. Sicily is beautiful in spring. I will try. But Sophia had no time off. Stages did not get vacation. They got the privilege of working for free, of learning, of maybe, possibly, being offered a permanent position if they proved themselves worthy. She had to prove herself worthy. Marco De Luca stood on the terrace of his new apartment and watched the sun set over Rome. The building was in Trastevere, old neighborhood, narrow streets, laundry hanging between buildings. Nothing like Beacon Hill, nothing like the life he had known. He loved it. The apartment itself was modest by his standards. 2 bedrooms, small kitchen, but the terrace. The terrace looked out over terracotta roofs and church domes and the Tiber River in the distance. It looked like possibility. He had been in Rome for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of learning a new city, a new language. His Italian was functional, but rusty. American Italian, not the real thing. He was working on it, taking classes, practicing with shopkeepers who laughed at his accent, but appreciated the effort. Tony handled Boston operations, called once a week with updates. The transition to legitimate business was proceeding, slower than Marco wanted, but happening. Some people were unhappy, rivals who saw opportunity in his absence. But Tony was capable. He would manage. Marco focused on building something new, consulting for American companies expanding into Europe, security analysis, risk assessment, work that used his skills without using his past. It was strange, being legitimate, being just another businessman in a suit. But it was also freeing. He visited his mother every weekend, took the train to Sicily, spent Saturdays and Sundays in her village, eating her cooking, going to Mass, meeting the neighbors who remembered Juliana as a girl. She was home, finally, and it showed in every aspect of her life, the way she moved, the way she laughed, the softness in her face. This was what she had needed, what she had been missing for 35 years. And Marco. Marco was learning what he had been missing too. Peace, quiet, a life where every decision did not carry the weight of violence. But there was still an emptiness, still something missing. Sophia. He missed her with an ache that never quite faded. Missed her voice, her laugh, the way she moved around a kitchen like she was conducting a symphony. They talked every day. But it was not the same. Video calls were not her presence. Text messages were not her touch. He wanted her here, in Rome, in this new life he was building. But she was in Paris, following her dream, and he would not ask her to give that up. Not yet. In May, Marco visited Paris. He had business there anyway. A client meeting, consulting work. But the real reason was Sophia. 3 months apart, the longest they had been separated since they met. He texted when he landed. "I am here. Where can I see you?" Her response came quickly. "Tonight, after service. Meet me at the apartment." She gave him the address. He took a taxi there, stood outside the building, and felt something cold settle in his stomach. This was where she lived? This building with peeling paint and broken buzzers? He walked up 6 flights, knocked. She opened the door. And despite everything, despite the terrible apartment and the 3 months apart, she was beautiful, thinner, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a bun that had come half loose, chef's coat still on, stained from the day's work, but beautiful. Marco. She said his name like a prayer, like relief. He stepped inside. She closed the door. And then they were in each other's arms, holding on like they could make up for 3 months of absence in a single embrace. They did not speak. Not at first. Just held each other, breathing together, hearts sinking. Finally, Sophia pulled back, looked up at him. "You are really here." "I am really here," she laughed, a sound caught between joy and tears. "The apartment is terrible. I know. I am sorry. I do not care about the apartment." He looked around anyway. One room, barely 10 by 12. A mattress on the floor. Hot plate. Clothes hanging on a line strung across the corner. Books stacked everywhere. This was what his money had bought her. Freedom to live like this. Freedom to chase her dreams in poverty. He felt sick. "Sophia, let me get you a better place." "No, but this is not safe. The neighborhood, the building. I am fine. This is what stages do. We suffer. We learn. We earn our place. You do not have to suffer." "Yes, I do." Her voice was firm. "If I take your money, I am not really doing this. I am not really proving myself. I am just the mob boss's girlfriend, playing at being a chef." She touched his face. "I need to do this on my own. Do you understand?" He did. Hated it, but understood. They spent the night talking. She told him about the kitchen, about Chef Marchand's impossible standards, about the other stages who were slowly accepting her, about the dishes she was learning to make. He told her about Rome, about his mother's joy, about the consulting work, about how strange it felt to be just Marco, not Marco DeLuca, head of the family. They fell asleep on her narrow mattress, tangled together, making up for lost time with presence instead of words. In the morning, he had to leave. Client meeting. Back to Rome the next day. At the door, Sophia held him. "I miss you. Every day, every moment. I miss you too." December. 6 months will be December. And then we figure out what comes next. December. He kissed her. Long, deep, memorizing the taste of her. Then he left. Walked down 6 flights of stairs, out into Paris morning, and wondered how he would survive 6 more months of this. In October, Chef Marchand called Sophia into his office. 7 months into her stage, 7 months of 12-hour days and screaming chefs and cuts on her hands that never quite healed. She sat across from him, waited, tried not to show how nervous she was. Marchand studied her, his face giving nothing away. "You have improved." 3 words. From him, high praise. "Thank you, chef. When you arrived, you were adequate, competent, but nothing special. American trained, soft." Sophia did not react. She had learned. Never show emotion in the kitchen. "But you have worked. You have listened. You have not complained, even when you should have." He paused. "I am offering you a permanent position. Commise de cuisine. Starting salary, 40,000 euros. You would begin in January." Sophia's heart stopped. This was it. The offer. The validation. Proof that she belonged here. Permanent position at Le Manoir Blanc. Michelin 3 stars. A line on her resume that would open every door in the culinary world. Everything she had worked for. "May I have time to think about it?" Marchand's eyebrows rose. Clearly, he had not expected hesitation. "You have 1 week. After that, the offer goes to someone else." "Yes, chef." "Thank you, chef." She left his office, walked to the locker room, sat on the bench, and felt nothing like the joy she had expected. Because accepting meant staying in Paris. Meant another year, maybe 2, maybe more. Building her career, climbing the ladder, meant more distance from Marco, from Juliana, from the life that was waiting in Italy. She pulled out her phone, texted Marco, "I need to talk. Can you call?" His response was immediate. "Give me 10 minutes." 12 minutes later, her phone rang. "What is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong. Chef Marchand offered me a permanent position." Silence on the other end. Long enough that Sophia checked to see if the call had dropped. "Marco? I am here. I am just—" "That is incredible, Sophia. Congratulations." But his voice was flat. "You do not sound happy." "I am happy for you. This is what you wanted." "It was what I wanted." "Was? Is? I do not know." She stood, paced the small locker room. If I stay in Paris, I build my career. I learn from the best. I become the chef I always dreamed of being. Yes, but if I stay in Paris, I lose you. I lose Juliana. I lose the life we were building. You do not lose me, do I not? How long can we do this, Marco? The distance, the video calls, the missing each other. How long before one of us gives up? I will never give up. But she could hear the doubt in his voice. The same doubt she felt. What if I came to Rome instead? The words were out before she could stop them. What? What if I turned down the offer? Came to Rome, found a position there. We could be together, really together. Sophia, you cannot give up a Michelin 3-star position for me. Why not? You gave up Boston for your mother, for a chance at a different life. That is different. How? Because my old life was killing me. Yours is just beginning. She sat back down, closed her eyes. I do not know what to do. Take the week. Think about it. Really think. Do not make this decision because of me. Make it because it is what you want. What if what I want is you? Marco's voice softened. Then I will still be here, in Rome, waiting. Whether you come in January or in 5 years, I will wait. That is not fair to you. Let me decide what is fair to me. They talked for another hour, going in circles, no closer to an answer. When they finally hung up, Sophia sat in the locker room until her shift started. 1 week to decide her entire future. No pressure. Sophia called Juliana that night. Cara, it is late. Are you well? I need advice. She explained everything. The offer, the decision, the impossible choice between career and love. Juliana listened, did not interrupt. When Sophia finished, there was a long pause. Do you remember what I told you when you were leaving for Paris? About wondering? About choosing? Yes, I chose Antonio. Chose love over staying in Sicily. And I never regretted the choice. But I always wondered. She paused. You are wondering now, before you have even chosen. That tells me something. What? That your heart already knows. You are just afraid to listen. I am afraid of making the wrong choice. There is no wrong choice, Cara. There is only the choice you make, and the life you build from it. But how do I know? Close your eyes. Picture yourself in 5 years. Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? Sophia closed her eyes. Let herself imagine. 2 images came, clear as photographs. First image, Paris, Michelin-starred restaurant. Her name on reviews. Success, recognition, alone. Second image, Rome, smaller restaurant, less prestigious. But Marco there, Juliana there, family, home. She opened her eyes. I see Rome. Then go to Rome. But the career will happen in Rome too. Maybe not the same way. Maybe not Michelin stars right away. But you will cook. You will create. You will build something beautiful. Juliana's voice softened. And you will do it with people who love you. That is worth more than any star, Cara. Trust me. Sophia turned down the offer. Chef Marchand looked at her like she had lost her mind. You are making a mistake. Maybe. But it is my mistake to make. She finished out her stage. 6 more weeks. Worked harder than ever. Left on good terms. Her last day, Marchand pulled her aside. If you ever want to come back, if Italy does not work out, call me. There will be a place for you here. Thank you, chef. He almost smiled. Go. Be brilliant. Even if it is not here. She packed her tiny apartment, said goodbye to the other stages, to Paris, to the life she might have had, and booked a ticket to Rome. One way. She did not tell Marco, did not tell anyone except her father and Juliana. She wanted it to be a surprise. Sophia arrived in Rome on a Tuesday in December. She took a taxi from the airport to the address Juliana had given her, Marco's apartment in Trastevere. Stood outside with her suitcase, heart pounding. What if he had changed his mind? What if the distance had been too much? What if she had waited too long? She climbed the stairs, knocked. Footsteps. The door opened. Marco stood there, sweatpants and t-shirt, hair uncombed, coffee cup in hand, looking exhausted and beautiful and shocked. Sophia? Surprise. What are you doing here? The stage ended. I turned down the permanent position. I came here. She was babbling. Could not stop. I know I should have called. Should have asked. But I wanted to see you. And Juliana said you would be home. And I thought maybe we could talk about what comes next. About whether there is a next for us. Because I chose you, Marco. I chose this. I chose. He kissed her, cut off her rambling with his mouth, pulled her inside, kicked the door shut, lifted her suitcase like it weighed nothing and set it aside, and kissed her like a man starving. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. You chose me. I chose you. Why? Because Michelin stars do not keep you warm at night. Because success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Because I love you, you idiot. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound filling the apartment. I love you too. So much. I have been miserable without you. Good. You should have been. She pulled back, looked around the apartment, smaller than Boston, but warm, lived in. Home. This is nice. It is not much. It is perfect. He showed her around. The terrace with its view. The small kitchen that made her heart ache with possibility. The bedroom with its big bed and morning light. This could be ours, he said. If you want, move in. Stay. We figure everything else out together. Yes, just like that, just like that. The next 6 months were the happiest of Sophia's life. She found work at a 2 Michelin star restaurant in Rome. Not Le Manoir Blanc, but good, excellent even. Chef Russo, a Roman who had trained in Sicily, appreciated her training, her passion, her willingness to learn. She worked lunch service, came home to Marco, cooked dinner together, fell asleep tangled in sheets that smelled like both of them. On weekends, they visited Juliana in Sicily, took the train down, spent Saturdays in her village, Sundays in Palermo markets, buying ingredients, talking to vendors, learning the landscape of Sicilian cuisine. Juliana was thriving, her health better, her heart strong, surrounded by people who spoke her language, who remembered her family, who made her feel seen. And slowly, carefully, Marco and Sophia began to talk about the future. What do you want? Long-term? My own restaurant. Small, maybe 20 seats. Focused on regional Italian. The dishes that tell stories. She paused. What do you want? You. A life where I do not have to look over my shoulder. Where I can just be Marco. Not Marco De Luca, the name. Just Marco, the man. You are that already. I am becoming that. Thanks to you. They talked about marriage, about children, about where to live, Rome or Sicily, or somewhere else entirely. No decisions, just dreams spoken into the dark, possibilities taking shape. Marco proposed on a Sunday in Juliana's garden. Spring, Sicily in bloom, lemon trees heavy with fruit. The Mediterranean visible from the terrace where they sat after lunch. Juliana had gone inside, left them alone. Marco suspected she knew what was coming, had probably helped plan it. Sophia sat beside him, face turned to the sun, eyes closed, peaceful. He pulled out the ring, simple, gold band with a small diamond. Not flashy, not ostentatious, just beautiful. Sophia. She opened her eyes, looked at him, saw the ring. Her hand flew to her mouth. Marco slid off the bench, knelt in the garden where his mother grew tomatoes and basil, where the air smelled like home. Sophia Romano. You walked into my life, speaking my mother's language, giving her joy when she had none. You saw past what I was and believed in who I could become. His voice shook. You left everything you knew to chase a dream. And then you came back. You chose me. You chose this life. You chose us. He held up the ring. Marry me. Be my wife, my partner, my home. Let me spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you have made me. Sophia was crying, nodding, laughing through tears. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, pulled her down to him, kissed her in his mother's garden while Juliana watched from the kitchen window and cried happy tears of her own. They married 6 months later. Small ceremony. The church in Juliana's village, the same church where she had been baptized, where her parents had married, where generations of her family had gathered. Sophia wore her mother's wedding dress. Elena Romano's gown from 1990, altered to fit. Simple white lace, nothing fancy, but perfect. Marco wore a traditional Italian suit, navy, white shirt, no tie. He looked nervous, happy, young. Robert Romano walked his daughter down the aisle, gave her hand to Marco with tears in his eyes, whispered something in Marco's ear that made the younger man nod solemnly. Take care of her, or answer to me, always. The ceremony was in Italian and English both. Vows spoken in 2 languages, binding them across cultures, across histories, across the distance they had traveled to find each other. Juliana cried through the entire thing. Happy tears, joyful tears, tears for the daughter she never had, and the son who had finally found peace. The reception was in her garden. Long tables, white linens, food that took 3 days to prepare. Every dish a story, every bite a memory. And when Marco and Sophia danced their first dance to Italian music under string lights and stars, everyone watching knew they were witnessing something rare. True love, hard won, worth fighting for. 2 years after the wedding, Sophia opened her restaurant. Small, 20 seats. In Trastevere, not far from their apartment, a corner building with big windows and a terrace for summer dining. She named it Juliana's, in honor of the woman who had started everything, who had missed home so desperately that she inspired a waitress to speak Italian, who had connected 2 lost souls through food and language and family. The menu was simple, regional Italian, dishes from Sicily and Tuscany and Naples, recipes passed down through generations, stories on plates, arancini made with Juliana's exact specifications, pasta con le sarde, the way Palermo made it, brassato al barolo from Marco's father's recipe, cassata siciliana for birthdays and celebrations, and every dish made with love, with precision, with the understanding that food was never just food. It was memory, connection, home. The restaurant succeeded slowly, then quickly. Word spread, first among Romans, then tourists, then critics. Within 18 months, they had a Michelin star. Sophia cried when she heard, not because she needed the validation, but because it proved something she had always believed. You did not have to sacrifice love for success. You could have both, if you were brave enough, if you chose carefully, if you built a life instead of just a career. 5 years after that first Friday night at Bella Notte, Sophia stood in the kitchen of Juliana's and watched the dinner service unfold. 20 tables full, reservations booked 2 months out, her staff of 8 moving with practiced efficiency. The kind of rhythm that only came from working together, from trusting each other, from caring about the food and the people eating it. Marco sat at table 7, their table, the one they kept reserved for family and friends. Tonight, it was Juliana, Robert Romano and Danny, visiting from Boston, Tony Benedetti and his wife, in Rome for vacation, Maria, who had moved to Rome the previous year to help with operations. They were laughing, talking, passing plates, sharing food, being family. Sophia finished plating the brassato, handed it to her sous chef, wiped her hands, untied her apron. She walked out of the kitchen, through the dining room, to table 7. Marco looked up as she approached, smiled. That smile that still made her heart skip. Cara, the food is incredible tonight. It is the same as every night. Yes, and it is incredible every night. She slid into the seat beside him, leaned her head on his shoulder, felt the solid warmth of him. the safety, the home. Juliana reached across the table, took Sophia's hand. You did it, Kara. Everything you dreamed. And more. We did it. All of us. Sophia looked around the table, at the people who had become her family, who had supported her, believed in her, loved her. This is what success looks like, she thought. Not stars, not reviews. This, family, love, food shared among people who matter. Robert raised his glass, a toast, to Sophia, who followed her dreams, and to Marco, who followed her, to family, to food, to home. They raised their glasses, clinked, drank, and Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. Happy tears, grateful tears. She had left Boston with nothing but debt and dreams, had worked herself to exhaustion in Paris, had chosen love over career, only to find she could have both, had built a life so much richer than any she had imagined. Later, after service ended, after the last table left, after the staff cleaned and departed, Sophia and Marco stood on the restaurant terrace. The city quiet below, stars visible above. The November air cold, but not bitter. Marco wrapped his arms around her from behind, chin on her shoulder. Happy? So happy it scares me sometimes. Good scared or bad scared? Good scared. The kind that reminds you what you have to lose, what is worth protecting. She turned in his arms, looked up at him. I love you. I love this life. I love what we built together. I love you too, more than I thought I could love anyone. He kissed her, soft, sweet, the kiss of a man who had all the time in the world, who was not going anywhere. When they broke apart, Sophia smiled. Your mother invited us to Sicily next weekend. She wants to teach me her Nona's recipe for caponata. Says mine is good, but not quite right. Marco laughed. Of course she did. What did you say? I said yes. Obviously. Obviously. They stood there, holding each other, looking out over the city they had chosen, the life they had built. And Sophia thought about that first Friday night, about speaking Italian to a lonely woman, about seeing past the dangerous man to the devoted son underneath, about taking risks when every instinct said to play it safe, about how the bravest thing she had ever done was not going to Paris. It was coming back, choosing love, choosing family, choosing the harder path that led to something real. From the street below, someone laughed. A couple walking home from dinner, speaking Italian, happy. Sophia smiled. She was home, finally, completely, in a country her mother had loved, in a city that felt right, in the arms of a man who had chosen peace over power, family over fear, in a life built on food and language and love. The three things that mattered most, the three things that had brought her here, the three things that would keep her here forever. Marco kissed her temple. Come on, let us go home. Home. The word warmed her, because home was not a place anymore, had not been for a long time. Home was wherever they were together. Boston, Paris, Rome, Sicily. It did not matter. As long as they had each other, as long as they had family, as long as they had food to share and language to connect them and love to sustain them, they were home. They walked down from the terrace, through the darkened restaurant, past the tables that would fill again tomorrow, past the kitchen where Sophia would create again tomorrow, past the memories they had made and the ones they would make, out into the Roman night, hand in hand, partners, equals, home. Behind them, the restaurant sign glowed. Juliana's, in honor of the woman who had started it all, who was thriving now in Sicily, healthy, happy, finally where she belonged, ahead of them, their apartment, the life they had built, the future stretching out full of possibility. They walked through Trastevere, past cafes closing for the night, past churches that had stood for centuries, past history and possibility intertwined. And Sophia felt complete, whole, like every choice she had made, every risk she had taken, Every fear she had faced had led her exactly here, to this man, this city, this life, to home. Not the home she was born to, but the home she had chosen, the home she had earned, the home that was hers. And in the morning, she would wake beside Marco, would go to the restaurant, would cook food that told stories, would serve people who became family, would live the dream she had built from scratch, would do it all again, because this was not just a life. It was the life, her life, their life. And it was beautiful. 15 years after that first Friday night, 2030, Sofia Romano De Luca stood in Giuliana's kitchen in Sicily, teaching her 7-year-old daughter, Elena, how to roll arancini. Not too much filling, tesoro. The rice is the star. Like this, mama? Perfect. Just like that. Marco watched from the doorway. Their son, Antonio, on his shoulders, 4 years old, already asking questions about everything. Papa, why is the sky blue? Because God wanted it that way. But why? Marco caught Sophia's eye. She grinned. Their son, exactly like his father, needing to understand everything. Giuliana, 72 now, sat at the kitchen table, slower than she used to be, but still sharp, still vibrant, still laughing. She watched her granddaughter roll rice balls and smiled the smile of a woman who had everything she needed. Sophia sent the children outside to play, washed her hands, sat beside Giuliana. How are you feeling today? Old, but happy? Good old or bad old? Good old. The kind that comes from a life well lived. Giuliana took Sophia's hand. Thank you, Cara, for coming to Rome, for staying, for giving me these babies to spoil, for making my son happy. You made me happy too. You gave me family when I needed it most. They sat together, 2 women from different generations, connected by love and food and language. Outside, Elena and Antonio chased chickens in the garden, Marco joining them, playing, laughing. The sound of family, the sound of home. And Sophia knew. This was it. This was everything. Not fame, not Michelin stars, not critical acclaim, but this, family, love, children laughing in a Sicilian garden, a husband who still looked at her like she hung the moon, a mother-in-law who had become a second mother, a life built on the simplest things, the most important things, food, language, love, the 3 pillars that held up the world, the 3 things that mattered most. And, as the sun set over Sicily, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Sophia sent up a silent thank you to her mother, who had taught her Italian, to her grandmother, who had taught her to cook, to fate, or God, or whatever force had brought her to Bellanotte that Friday night 10 years ago, to the choice she had made to speak. One sentence, one moment of bravery, and it had changed everything. She stood, walked to the door, called her family in for dinner. They came, laughing, dirty from playing, happy, and they ate together, around Giuliana's old table, sharing food and stories and love, the way families had done for thousands of years, the way they would do for thousands more, because some things never changed. Food, language, love, the 3 things that made us human, the 3 things that brought us home, always. The end.